got to turn to my friend and friend of Rich member in the Rich Eisen DraftOps.com Celebrity League, Jake Tapper of CNN, back on the show. Jake, you there?
I'm here.
Jake,
I'm here.
Jake, how come you didn't ask a fantasy football question when you were moderating a debate with the GOP, Jake? Come on now.
It's, we did try to ask a couple lighter questions at the very end of our debate a month ago, who would be on the $10 bill, a historical woman, and what would, and a thing about what you would want your legacy to be.
Right.
Those soft landing questions can be tough.
Now, are you right now on the lead with Jake Tapper for later on today on CNN? Is the lead story trying to see if Chris Christie really does have a fantasy football team after all, and he probably has all Dallas Cowboys on them? Are you hot on the trail on this one, Jake?
We are very much focused on the investigative work into Christie's fantasy football league, and but to be honest, it's I have to say, and Rich, you and I are both active on Twitter.
Yes.
Seeing other reporters attack our fellow reporters is always very uncomfortable for me. I mean, I understand that politicians are going to do it, but just like journalism is just, I've just become convinced in the last few years or so that it is only slightly less collegial than the Medellin cartel. It is a very tough field, and people are mean to each other.
I've seen the two Escobars. Are you saying there's the two Blitzers is coming out, a new 30 for 30? The two Blitzers?
Have you been watching Narcos on Netflix?
I have not. I've been told it's great. Is it great?
So good, although I have to say, I know your wife is an enlightened woman.
Yes.
If your wife is like mine, why do you constantly watch shows that have violence against children and women? What is wrong with you? One of those people?
Sure.
You might want to skip episue 2. Well, that's all I'm saying.
Well, my wife is the one who wants to watch Deadwood again because the language in Deadwood is something that she actually once upon a time almost dropped on the air. Because the language, she appreciates the language in Deadwood. So Narcos might be directly up her alley.
It was poetic.
Yeah, it was like iambic pentameter with four-letter words, as if the bard was just dropping F-bombs.
Yeah.
Back in the day.
I agree.
So when you just mentioned that, though, because I did see that a lot, that a lot of people were in the journalism business was critical of the CNBC questions that were being asked last night. I saw that quite a bit, Jake, and I would never sit there on Twitter and bash what somebody else was doing during a World Series or a Super Bowl or anything like that. I would never go ahead and do something like that.
I know you wouldn't. It's just because, and we all have obviously, look, we're all in this field because we're we're all competitive. We all have our opinions. But, like, my opinion, just as a general rule, is, that's not for me to say. I'm not a media critic, and, like, I am so wrapped up in my own thing that I wouldn't hardly be an unbiased commentator. And like also, we know these people. Like Joe Buck he's a gentleman. I'm not a sports commentator, but like I know you have only said kind things about Joe Buck on the air, on Twitter, off the air, off Twitter. And it's just, although certainly you throw his name out there on Twitter, you're going to get a big response.
Yeah, I know. I know that. And I get that from a lot of friends saying, man, I think Josh Charles did that the other day, said something about Joe Buck on Twitter and then found his timeline filled with a lot.
I'll tell you what happened is that Kai Ryssdal from Public Radio said that he likes Joe Buck. I retweeted it and did +1. Josh Charles retweeted me and did +2, and then he got the snot kicked out of him.
I don't understand it. I honestly, I don't. But
people love to hate. They love to hate.
Jake Tapper, at Jake Tapper on Twitter. So just to wrap this all up before we turn to our DraftOps.com endeavor, out of all the things that may not pass the smell test from a public official last night in the debate, Jeb Bush saying he started Ryan Tannehill in a fantasy league has to rank up there. Jake, that's stretched credulity in many ways.
Well, I have to say, we do. I do a fact check video on CNN.com every week, and I thought about that one, but I don't have a way of proving it false.
Who's in his league? Is Poppy in that league? Who's in the Jeb Bush fantasy league?
You think it's just the Bush family? It's just Kennebunkport?
Got to keep it in house, right?
He's 7-0. How can that possibly be?
I don't know of anybody, by the way, who's 7-0 in a fantasy league except Chris Brockman. Chris Brockman is, but he doesn't have a stance on if the banks are too big to fail, though, Jake. So he's got gaps in the coverage.
I suspect. You know what? I bet it's like him and his staff. I bet it's like his staff league.
Brockman?
Where like he's like, and he's like, hey, this week I'm gonna do with this. What do you think, guys? They're like, oh, great idea.
It's his staff. Yeah.
Great idea, Governor.
Yeah, I know. But see, but he did know that Tannehill went 18 for 19. That is true. He was locked down on that. He didn't know that.
I think he's legit. It's funny though because this was a moment for him where he was trying just like to be a regular guy.
Mm-hmm.
And just like talk about fantasy football and like his team and be jocular. He's a nice person. Like he's sometimes when you meet famous people or politicians, they're like robots. They're not like real people.
Sure.
And he's not like that. He's actually like a human being. But I mean, he was trying to do that, and then Chris Christie just decided to he was just going to throw caution to the. And I bet if you ask Chris Christie just like in a regular conversation about his fantasy football league, I bet he would have like tons to say.
Sure, and he's the one who's going. He's in Jerry Jones's suite during playoff games, hugging him. He's a
Don't even get me started on that. I've said that to him a million times.
Yeah.
I hate those guys, and this is not Christie specific, but I hate those guys who are roughly our contemporaries, Rich, and he's a few years older than us, Governor Christie, but within a decade or so, who are not from Pittsburgh or Dallas. And are Dallas and Pittsburgh fans because in the 70s those two teams won every game, and so they were just. I mean, come on.
It's easy. But you lived through the Kotite years, Jake, right? In Philly, you lived through the Kotite years, the Marion Campbell years, maybe, Ray Rhodes, right? For the Philadelphia Eagles, you lived through all of that.
I've lived as if my pain is past tense.
Now,
that's sweet. It's sweet of you to regard it that way.
And look, by the way, I know what Chris Christie was saying as well. That's a forum to talk about serious issues while we're talking about fantasy football. But the next time that you speak to Trump, would you be the first one to bring up to him that the USFL didn't succeed, and what is his responsibility in all of that, Jake? Right in the middle of this whole thing.
Although, what if he has Herschel Walker come over and squeeze my head like a grape as a response?
He was on the show a month ago, Jake, Herschel Walker, and said that he talked about how he loved Trump and Trump was a great owner and a great guy, and said that Trump once went with Herschel Walker to Disney World and they rode It's a Small World together.
People who worked with Trump and weren't fired ultimately only have nice things to say about him. Who's the name is escaping me, but he was an American Idol guy. He ran for Congress in North Carolina last cycle. He got killed.
Was it Heath Schuler? He wasn't on American Idol, but okay. Just throw it out there.
But I think he's gay, if that makes any difference, if that rings a bell for you. Anyway, I forget his name. His name is escaping me right now. But liberal Democrat, whatever, and praising Trump to high heaven, just because people who have worked with him have said nice things to say. He and Penn Jillette got into some sort of Twitter feud the other day.
Oh my gosh.
And Gillette posted a letter that he had written Mr. Trump about his experience on The Apprentice, and it was fawning. And I don't mean that to be rude to Penn Jillette. It was he was very impressed with how Trump ran that show.
Hey, listen, Jake Tapper joining me here on the Rich Eisen Show, CNN anchor, chief Washington correspondent, the League with Jake Tapper. I've run out of time to just read your entire list of things that you do. 4 p.m. Eastern every day, the Lead with Jake Tapper on CNN. All right, now I have nothing but nice things to say about you for our Friends of Rich Celebrity League. You currently are sitting in 7th place, right there in the middle of the pack.
Yeah.
But you're within hailing distance of Grandma Gloria Glassman, the 85-year-old Ohio grandmother of Rick Glassman, who's running away with this thing right now.
I know. I feel I'm kind of like the Jeb Bush of the pack right now. I'm kind of just in the middle. I'm trying to break out. There were a few weeks I was in 3rd place, and it was very exciting. I was looking down dismissively at Snoop Dogg. The only thing I can say is that I'm beating you, really.
Yes, you are. You are doing that right now. My polling is not trending very well right now, but
it's okay. As Governor Bush said, this is a game of patience.
It is.
Patience.
That's right. Okay, so you're ready to deliver your DraftOps.com Week 8 lineup.
Yeah.
Okay, here we go. Hit the music. There you go. Here's the NFL Films music, something you don't get on CNN too often, Jake.
I like it.
Who's your quarterback for Week 8, Jake Tapper?
Carson Palmer.
You like Carson Palmer, the Arizona Cardinals, and they're in Cleveland. Okay.
Yeah, well, that's one of the reasons. And also, obviously, I can't pick Brady because he's playing Thursday.
That's true. Okay.
Yeah, I mean, he's seasoned. He's smart. He has Karnak-like anticipation.
I like. A nice Carson reference. I appreciate that. Good job.
Yeah.
Your running back is this week, Jake? Who do you have?
Todd Gurley.
He's on fire. I might take him again, too. I took him last week. He was my saving grace, Jake.
I guess my bottom line is, if Marshawn Lynch can rush for 122 yards and a touchdown against the 49ers, I see no reason why Gurley can't.
I think
he could.
That's a good move. I'm thinking of doing the same thing. And your wide receiver is going to be who?
I'm going to go to Texas on this one, DeAndre Hopkins.
You've been choosing him a lot, and why not?
Yeah.
Yeah.
He constantly gets open. I almost went with Julio Jones, but I have to say, with the emergence of Freeman on Atlanta, I feel like they're just going to keep going to Freeman.
I like it. I like the thinking
Hopkins.
here, Jake. Carson Palmer, Todd Gurley, DeAndre Hopkins is Jake Tapper, CNN anchor Jake Tapper's Week 8 picks in the Friends of Rich Celebrity League. Before I let you go, one of my Chris's on my Chris Command Center, Chris Law, he's a big Philly guy. He's going to be a dad for the first time.
Nice.
There is a boy, a masculine child coming. And,
Luca.
And we are trying to come up with Philadelphia sports heroes for whom to name the child after.
Why not Irving?
Irving
Fryer?
As in Julius?
No, Julius Irving.
Julius
No. Yeah, I guess Julius Irving Law wouldn't be bad. Right now, the clubhouse leader is Vi Sikahema Law, Jake.
What about World B?
World B Law.
That's the winner.
World B Law.
World B Free Law.
World B Free Law.
Yeah, it's not bad.
I like it. See, I knew you'd come up with a good one, Jake.
Yeah.
World B Free Law.
Or you can always go with Perry Moss's nickname from his days with the Sixers, the Blade.
The Blade Law.
Blade Law.
Do
That's
any
a
of these?
strong
Do you
name.
think any of these law would pass muster with the missus? at
No,
home?
no chance.
Harold
No
Carmichael Law?
I like it. This is all good.
I think Julius might be the one that the wife allows at the end of the day. But I think any of those would be good.
I was hoping that Don Lemon was from Philadelphia, so we could name him Don Lemon Law. Is that possible, Jake?
I do not think he's from Philadelphia.
Okay, I'm just that was a Hail Mary attempt right there, Jake.
Well, why not? But no, he's not.
Thank you for lending your gravitas to this idiocy, Jake. I appreciate it.
It's not idiocy, and I love it.
Excellent. Thanks, Jake. You take care.
Talk to you later, buddy. Say hi to your wife for me.
You got same to you. That's Jake Tapper, at Jake Tapper on Twitter.
The Rich Eisen Show, weekdays at noon Eastern. On Audience.